Well, they closed down the mill and they closed down the mine. They said you can't work but pay your taxes on time. Got 3 little babies gonna starve to death or freeze. We started making white lightning, it was Grandpa's recipe. Run, rebel, run to no avail. Run, rebel, run to the Scott County Jail.
Go on, Sally.
She had to come right on screen just as we were getting ready to start. She knew it was her cue.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. Welcome Thursday night. We are back live here at the historic Scott County Jail with another great guest. But before we get into that, you are locked in for the next hour with myself and Dr. Christy Sumner.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've got an amazing guest. We're so excited. He has so much to talk about, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you have any questions for our guest, once we start speaking with him, please put it over in the comment section. But we're going to be talking everything from books to cons to special events to everything. So it's going to be a really fun night. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and so if you didn't tune in last week, we had a wonderful guest, Mr. Greg O'Brien from Fort Mifflin. He broke down the history of the fort, the area, and we even played some evidence that Christy with Soul Sisters, as well as the fort itself, had captured. And it was just a really fun show, and it really kind of tied into our Jailhouse series as well, since at one point in time, the fort was used to house prisoners. So if you missed that episode, please go back and check that out, and go check out Fort Mifflin as well as Mr. Greg O'Brien, and tell him you saw it here on the Jailhouse Informant podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great place. If you have not been to Fort Mifflin, I highly recommend it, just for a day tour or for a paranormal investigation. It's always a lot of fun. But can't believe we're almost a week out from Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Well, that went, January, it seemed like January took forever to finish. And now, we're going through February like that.
See, surprisingly, I felt like January flew by.
Mm-mm.
This was like the first January in all of my years of being alive that it felt like it's flown by. And I don't know why that is, because normally it seems like it goes for like 3 years. So, but yeah, here we are in the first full week here of February. And let me trying to pull up comments here, but let me pull up on our screen. Just want to make sure that we mentioned that we are going into our February hours here at the historic Scott County Jail. We're still on our winter schedule, but we're trying to accommodate and do some special things for everybody. And so we have added a few more days to our daytime general business hours because, on January we were just open on Saturdays. Now we are back to being open Fridays through Sundays from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time. Now, I know Chris had a couple folks the other day that took advantage of our appointment only tours. On the other days of the week, Monday through Thursday, if you have a group of 4 or more people and you would like to come in and investigate the jail, give us a call. We've got the number on the door there. Give us a call. And this is if we're available, within reason, we will come out and you can do a guided tour of the jail. And we will be going back to normal business hours come March. And then also our after dark tours and escape room games. We have those every single night. We had some folks who did escape room this past week. That was
they were awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. If you haven't taken advantage of the escape room and you're looking for something really cool to do, you've got to check it out. You don't have to go all the way to Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge or even Knoxville to experience a professional escape room. You can come and do this here at the jail and actually escape from one of our jail cells.
Maximum security cells. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
But the After Dark tours, we are offering those every single night of the week. And we are doing something very special here for up until the time changes on March 9th. You can take advantage of our extended, we're calling it our extended night, which is basically you get 8.5 hours for the price of a 6.5 hour investigation. So we are doing that through March 9th, and we've had a lot of people. February is
Slammed.
Completely slammed, and it's getting booked up leading up to that date. But you can do it every night of the week.
Yeah.
So if a weekend is booked, don't worry about it.
Yeah, get your paranormal investigation team and book something before March, as Miranda said. Take advantage of those extra hours because it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and rugby, we want to definitely make sure to mention we've had 2 investigations the past weekend there at Historic Rugby. But while rugby is closed, you can go in, and we will be giving day tours at rugby. So it's our day our day lantern tours or after dark tours during the day, and we're offering investigations during the day as well. So and all that leads up to, I can't remember their date. Is it the 13th or
March
15th?
Yeah, March that they'll open back up. The rugby itself will open back up. But as I said before, we're getting close to Valentine's Day, so we just announced today 2 very special events that we're going to be hosting. One at rugby. This is our Fall in Love with Rugby tour. There you go. So we've got 2 tours. We're doing one on February the 14th as well as February the 15th. This is going to be a lot of fun because it takes the historic village tour that we typically give, but it's going to be an extended tour, and we're going to add now stories of love, life, and loss in the village of Rugby. So we're going to be telling some interesting stories about Victorian Valentine's Day practices, some of the interesting weddings that have taken place in Rugby, all those who actually fell in love with rugby and called it their home. So it's going to be very fun. You get obviously the walk. You get a souvenir photo as well as a little Valentine's Day gift if you book that walk. Again, these are 2 very special events only happening on the 14th and the 15th. So next week, go ahead and get those booked if you are in the area. It's kind of something fun that we want to do for couples, or if you've got best friends or partners or whatever. Just come on out because it's going to be a lot of fun. We're excited about this one.
Yeah, and we will be able to book, because I know sometimes the weather is a little weird here on the Cumberland Plateau. And so some people kind of wait till it gets a little bit closer, since this is an inside outside walk and we are a rain or shine company. So we will be selling tickets up until noon the day of each tour. And make your plans early, because that helps us with our head count, and that also gets you in good with your partner. But but if you are looking something last minute, definitely do that. We will be doing more posts and more advertisements and stuff about that. And then, as Chris mentioned, we're going to be doing, now it's not been put out there yet, but I'll go ahead and show you the artwork for it. So definitely check out our Partners in Crime event that we're doing at the jail for Valentine's night. This one is only going to be, as of right now, this is only going to be a 1-night tour, and that's because we are booked on Saturday night there at the jail. So this is going to be on Friday night, and it's going to start at 7 p.m. And what's cool about this is we're going to have 2 different types of tickets. This is for couples. We're going to have the Bonnie and Clyde package, and we're going to have the Thelma and Louise package. So you can bring your bestie, or you can bring your partner and come and do a flashlight tour of the jail, where we'll be telling ghost stories as well as telling some true crime stories and the history of the jail. And with this one, you actually get, should I show?
Yeah. You get a little Valentine's Day gift.
Yeah, I'm trying to think to see if I've actually got that. Let me see if I have that right here while we're talking.
Yeah, there it is.
Let's see here. Give me 1 second.
It's just something kind of fun that we're giving out to you and your friend, your partner, your best friend, whatever you'd like to bring. As Miranda said, you can either be a Bonnie and Clyde or a Thelma and Louise, but you'll get, again, a souvenir photo as well as a little keepsake. And it looks like...
you'll get a...
Looks like...
Here. Well, why is that not?
Oh, boo.
Huh. Well,
we had it. We lost it.
Yeah. Let me see here. Give me 1 second. I don't know why that didn't pull up. Oh, I know why that didn't pull up, because it would help if I actually open the file to pull it up here.
But it's a lot of fun. It's just something we wanted to do a little bit different, both at rugby and at the jail. It does have elements of our existing tours, but it does pepper in some fun stuff related to, crime and punishment, couples who commit crimes and stuff like that. So, like I said, you'll get this little guy, which is kind of fun.
So you'll get that in the package there, and then something else that's just a little bit special that we're including with that, and like Chris said, with the souvenir photos. So we'll have more information. You'll be able to purchase tickets for this one coming up later tonight. We'll have that open. Mm-hmm. And then just to quickly mention, because we want to get to tonight's guest, we have, don't forget about Vet CityCon that we're going to be a part of coming up here on March 29th. We had Chad Shepard on the show at the end of last year, and he was talking about this event. It's going to be taking place in Bowling Green, Kentucky at the National Corvette Museum. And there's going to be a lot of great guests. It's going to be horror, pop culture, paranormal, lots of really cool things. So come check us out there. Maybe we'll talk more about it as it gets a little bit closer.
Yeah, March 29th. So mark your calendars for that. But as we mentioned, we have a great guest tonight. This he's definitely a friend of the shows, a friend of the jails, of rugby, and basically just an all around good guy. So please help us welcome Eric Freeman Sims.
Hey.
Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. It's kind of a special night for you, or a special eve for you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, my book that I've been working on for so long finally comes out tomorrow. So, well, I guess at midnight tonight. So on Amazon. So interesting. It's been very surreal.
Yeah,
to be a published author now.
So tell us a little bit about it. Like, kind of, well, hold up I know you got one there, so kind of hold it up, and why don't you tell people kind of like what was your inspiration for writing this, and kind of like your writing process through it all.
So I named it Small Town Haunts and Legends of Tennessee, and a lot of people know the big city ghost stories about the Bijou Theater in Knoxville. In Memphis, there's hauntings in Memphis, all over with Graceland and Elvis, and then in Nashville, you have many different stories of the Ryman and the Opry and places like that. So I wanted to dive into the research and find stories that people, and history that people didn't know about these small towns and some of the places in them. What's up, Damien? And so that was the whole purpose of the book. But also Tennessee has a lot of legends because storytelling is a huge thing in Tennessee, coming from Appalachia and the people in Appalachia. And so a lot of these stories have been handed down. And there's different versions. So it was finding all the different versions, but collated into one cohesive story. So all the stories are true to the best of my knowledge. The book is probably 70% history because I wanted to teach people some things too. But a lot of the history that I put in there is not just straight up, oh, this happened in this date. I wanted to find interesting history in some of the stories that, even growing up in Tennessee, we took Tennessee history in high school or middle school. And they just, you don't hear these about some of these people. And some of the interesting history of these small towns. And some of them have incredible history that people don't even know about, that former presidents live there, and things like that. So yeah, just diving into the uncommon, I guess, history and hauntings all around Tennessee.
You sent us the digital copy of it, so we got a kind of a preview of it, and I like the way you broke it up into the sections of Tennessee. So basically, if you're reading it, you can use it almost as a roadmap. If you're in that section of the state, to find kind of those little lesser known locations that you were talking about. Now, how did you pick these locations that you added in the book?
So a lot of stuff. It actually was West Tennessee was harder than Middle or East Tennessee to find information, especially about hauntings and stuff. And I come to the conclusion, looking at it, that part of that is because West Tennessee doesn't have as much history as Middle and East Tennessee,
Mhm.
because as we moved, of course we moved westward expansion,
Yeah.
but really Western Tennessee wasn't, really settled until the 1800s, to where, as you have a lot of history in Middle Tennessee and East Tennessee going back to the 1700s and the early 1800s, and you get into the mid 1800s around the Civil War times when West Tennessee was really was kind of founded and all that. So
Mhm.
not as much history there, and the storytelling aspect of Tennessee and Appalachia doesn't necessarily stretch out that far either, which is odd. And I guess there are a lot more places that are open to the ghost stories, especially in Middle and East Tennessee. So it was looking at these small towns, finding the interesting hauntings, things that I'd never heard of, like a ghost parrot at one of the locations, things like that are interesting, but also places that had interesting history. So not just your plain of, there was Civil War soldiers here. Well, there's Civil War soldiers at numerous historic locations for hospitals or whatever, but that had to kind of play into the interesting history of the hauntings and of the history itself. And so kind of telling some of those stories. But and then also enough meat on the bone of that story, and enough that I could find in research to actually write at least a couple paragraphs, instead of just putting, well, people report phantom footsteps and things like that. Some of the stories are like that because I wrote 2 pages on the interesting history, but there wasn't a whole lot of reports of the haunting. And then there's others that there's not a whole lot of history known about the place, but there's 2 or 3 pages of the stories of the haunting and
Right.
the spirits and things that have happened to people in eyewitness accounts. So I was just trying to find, for one, if it entertained me, I guess, because being an investigator for like 20 years, we kind of get a little, I don't want to say jaded, because I'm not jaded with the paranormal, but complacent, I guess. And we've heard lots of stories.
word.
People come up and tell us stories all the time. So to find stuff that kind of was like, oh, that's really cool, story of the haunting and things that people are experiencing. So just I probably have 50 more stories that I didn't put in the book from the research, and just kind of narrow it down.
Well, when you had mentioned that about how the hauntings had spanned, from from the Appalachian area and the storytelling side, did you find that to be the same with the legends and the cryptids as well? That there seemed to be more on a certain region of the state than the other?
There's a lot more legends, probably in East Tennessee. I tried to even them out. There are quite a few in West Tennessee as well, and then there are some that kind of span the whole state. With especially your Bigfoot, your wild men, things like that kind of span the whole state. The Wampus cat is one of those that kind of spans the whole state. Catzilla, the giant catfish, kind of reports all the lakes and rivers across the state. But East Tennessee probably had the most, and I think because you also have a huge Cherokee presence in East Tennessee.
Yes.
And they're big on storytelling and handing down their history. So you have a lot of things like Spearfinger and things like that, stories like that, and even stories of the Wampus cat and of other, the wood booger and things like that have come out of Appalachia. So I think East Tennessee is probably the most as far as legends go, for sure. The hauntings, as far as hauntings in Middle Tennessee and East Tennessee are kind of equal, I would say. And I try to equal it out anyway with having, so many stories of each. And I had to, like I said, I probably got 50 stories and put in the book. The book is 250 pages. So
it's a little lengthy, but I mean, but it's but the amount of places that you put in there, it's not like you're reading a whole novel on one place. I love the fact that you've got these, it's almost like a snapshot of these interesting locations that tease you with the history, that tease you with the hauntings. And then if you want to go and investigate them yourselves or go and find them yourselves, that's why I said, again, I really like the way you laid it out, because you can go to these places and actually find them yourselves with the knowledge that you put in the book of both the history and the paranormal claims or the cryptid claims.
Yeah. And that I wanted to go back to before, because I remember growing up before the internet and all of that, and we had coffee table books and bathroom books.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids nowadays blow their mind that you actually read a book in the bathroom, but people would have books set in the bathroom, and there were books specifically said bathroom books with jokes and all kinds of stuff. So I wanted to go back to that time too, to where you don't have to read the book linearly, like you're saying. It's more like a reference. You can jump around to different stories, and some of them are 5 pages long, some of them are 1 page. So if you just have 5 minutes to sit down and read a couple of stories, it's easy to do. And you can jump around the book and jump around and look at titles that you find interesting, or oh, I've never heard of that city before in Tennessee. Where's that at? And what's the deal there? So, or jump around the different legends. So,
Now, of those that you highlighted, what percentage have you heard before, versus how many that you found that were new that you'd never even heard of?
I'd say probably 75% are new that I'd never heard of.
Wow.
A lot of the locations I was familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily familiar with the ghost stories and the history.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Magnolia Manor, some of those places like that, I'd heard of it because
Mm-hmm.
they're major historic places in Tennessee. But even Cragfont, which is close to me in Gallatin area,
Mm-hmm.
I'd heard some whispering of the stories, but never the full stories. And my editor, who also did the forward, Sin, that's one of the things that she said was that she had heard whispers of, here and there. She had heard about this location or that location around Tennessee because she's a native Tennessean too from Fayetteville. But a lot of the stories, she didn't know the in-depth stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, about 70% of them, I probably, may have heard the name of the location, but not necessarily, or the town, but not necessarily the actual in-depth history or the ghost stories.
So how long have you been working on this?
It actually took me almost 2 years.
Oh, wow.
I actually got frustrated. It is the single most difficult creative thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a pretty creative person. I do video, production and all kinds of stuff, and the podcast and, all that. And getting the formatting down to where it was kind of unique to my book and unique to me, because I didn't have any guide, I didn't have anybody showing me how to do this.
Yeah.
I've never written a book. But once I got the formatting down, it was easier. I took about 8 months off because it frustrated me. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to pick this back up. And I already had all the research done. But once I got the formatting done and I buckled down the last 3 months, I finished it at the end of December. That was kind of my goal. And so those last 3 months of 2024, I really buckled down and wrote 5-6 pages a day to get it finished. But,
Good for you.
And now I'm already looking at doing Kentucky.
Now that you have the format down,
Yeah.
and you can really bang it out, that I think it'd be great. Just kind of march around the South and do it that way.
Yeah.
As nothing beats, in my opinion at least, nothing beats Southern legends and haunts in those areas. I mean, yes, New England has got these, amazing history and haunted places to investigate, but I'm in love with the stories from the South just because there's so many. And it's, again, you could probably, like you said, you could do a book just on East Tennessee itself and some of these places. I mean, there's probably some stories that people outside of the specific counties haven't even heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And some of these stories, people who live there probably haven't ever even heard of. Because a lot of the locations I wrote about, they don't necessarily advertise, because a lot of them are private residents. They're not open to investigation, none of that. So they're not necessarily out there advertising their ghost stories and stuff. So it's just eyewitnesses, who have lived there before, or just stories that have kind of leaked out, as far as the actual haunting stories and things. I used many different resources as research to get a lot of the stories, even talking to different investigators who've actually maybe been lucky enough to go be the only investigators that ever, investigate this place. And just looking at, from everything from newspaper articles to, all kinds of things. Because sometimes even the ones that aren't kind of open to talking about the hauntings, a lot of times if a newspaper reporter, or a TV reporter comes to them, we want to talk about the history, but it's spooky season, so we want to hear the ghost stories. You'll get some of that. So some of that in there too. And then other books from other authors who have written on the stories. And one of the things I've been asked, are the stories true? Well, I don't know, and I don't care. They're true as far as I heard them, and like I said, some of them are 3 or 4 different stories collated into a cohesive. So I didn't make any of it up.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't write it as a fiction standpoint. It's nonfiction. But in the beginning of the book, I put a quote in there from a movie called "The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance," and it's an old movie with Jimmy Stewart. It's a great movie. It's one of the last movies that John Wayne did.
Okay.
And there's a newspaper editor in there, and the reporter asked him, who should I print? Should I print the story or what's become legend? And he says, when the legend becomes fact, print the legend.
Okay,
and what he meant by that is that the legend is more entertaining than the facts are. And so people will buy the newspaper with the legend than they will just the straight facts. And so that's kind of my approach to the book of, a lot of these stories, some of them are way far fetched. And you just know, you're just like, that probably did not happen, but at the same time, it's entertaining ghost stories have been handed down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like whenever you're reading the stories about Appalachian folklore and such, where they're talking about some of the outlandish superstitions and things that you can do. I mean, any normal person reading that today knows that stepping inside of a grave is not going to cure boils, a toothache, and incontinence, but people believed it at that time, and somebody had to do it, or try it. So it's kind of similar to that with these stories. It's like, I mean, it's fact as they know it, or as they told it. So
yeah, and in the description for the book, I put in there that these stories kind of keep that history alive by handing down these stories, whether they're true or not, whether that really, somebody really experienced that type of haunting or what, that story still keeps the history of these people alive and their memory alive, because the people in the stories are real. They were real. Most of them were real historical figures who lived there and whatever. Like the one guy in the book at one of the locations, he was a horrible slave owner and did horrible things to enslaved people under him. And he supposedly came down with a fever, and a little enslaved, like 12-year-old enslaved boy was taking care of him. They actually quarantined him into slave quarters outside. His family did, so nobody else got sick. And the story goes that the little enslaved boy saw a swarm of flies come in and go inside this guy's mouth and choke him to death because he was such a horrible person. And then the flies left.
Jeez.
So did that happen? I don't know. But it's a vindication for how horrible this guy was,
Yeah.
And so there's a moral to the story. Karma in the end, he got his because of how horrible he was and treated people. And that was kind of
and sometimes these legends are cautionary tales, right? That this may happen if you walk under a ladder or walk through a triangle and split the Trinity. I mean, something bad will happen to you. So there's a reason that these things have been handed down.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tropes too that you'll hear from stories across the United States, like the the woman in white, or the lost bride, or the bride to be, that still linger around because they lost their lover before their wedding or on their wedding night. Yeah. So there's lots of tropes like that too, found in different places. Will claim them around the country as being the origin, the story. Sensabaugh Tunnel is another one of those. There's no real reason for it to be haunted. The story, you can't prove if the story's true or not, but it's one of those tropes too. There's a trope that became synonymous with Sensabaugh Tunnel, of that if you park a car in there, you'll find kids' handprints on the back of your car, like they're trying to push you out away from danger or whatever. Well, San Antonio claims that happens on a railroad track in San Antonio because a busload of kids got hit and killed there. And then you have other cities that claim the same thing.
There's one in Florida. Yeah.
And so you have these tropes like that. So it's interesting looking at those legends, but there's cautionary tales too, and that's why those urban legends continue to proliferate and go from city to city, and different cities claiming them.
Yeah. So it's maybe difficult, but pick what was one of the locations that when you were researching just completely like blew your mind, that is one that really sticks out as being noteworthy in your book?
I would say, let me think. I'm going to actually look at the table of contents.
And you don't have to say the historic Scott County Jail. You don't have to do that, because we are very, very appreciative that you did mention us in the book. So thank you for doing that, and rugby. Yes. So thank you for that.
Well, I love investigating the jail and all that. So I just had to put it in the book, because also it's, y'all are busy and booked, but there's still people out there who've never heard of rugby or the Scott County Jail. So
absolutely. I mean, people who live in this county.
Yeah. So it's one of those, another small town haunt legend, type of deal. I'm trying to think of the name of this house. Was it Cherry Mansion? Anyway, there's a story. I think it's Cherry Mansion. It's either Cherry Mansion or Magnolia Manor. There were some Civil War generals that stayed in the house, and they used the house as the headquarters, and they actually invited them in to stay in the house while the town was being occupied. And they were Union generals, and they actually got in an argument at the dinner table, and some things were said that offended the lady of the house. And so the other general told the one general who offended her that he needed to apologize, and he wouldn't. So he got up from the table and stomped up to the stairs to go up to his room. And when he did, he pulled his saber out and slashed the banister. in protest because he was just so angry. To this day, there's still a chunk missing out of the banister,
Oh, cool.
out of the handrail, and people have reported hearing a loud bang on the stairs.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's
As
cool.
if something's hitting the stair, the handrail. The other one is in down towards Shallow. I'm sorry, my mind is going.
No, that's okay. I kind of put you on the spot with that one.
Down towards Shallow, there's a mansion that's up on a bluff, and that overlooks Shallow, the battlefield, and the river, and all that. And so generals were there getting ready. They were eating lunch, eating breakfast when the battle happened, and they brought two of the generals back to the house, and they actually died in the house. There's a couple of interesting legends with this one. It is said that one of the general's wives had a premonition, and she was like 400 or 500 miles away.
Wow.
And she had a premonition a few days before their husband was going to die. And so she did everything she could she knew where he was at. She did everything she could to get to him, and she got to him right before he died.
Oh, wow.
And he died in her arms in that house.
Wow.
And he's still sitting in the window. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Tragic, but awesome.
Yeah, in that same house in the 70s, this is a real eyewitness account. It's a private residence, and there were people sitting on the porch back in the 70s, and they watched a gentleman in 1800s dress with a top hat walk up the driveway. The road kind of comes right in front of the house, so it's kind of the driveway, but the road at the same time. He stopped in front of them, stared at them, and looked at the historical marker like he was reading it, and disappeared right in front of them.
Oh,
wow.
And there's like 5 people sitting on this porch that saw it happen. Yeah.
that is awesome.
Now that is cool. Looks like we got a question here from James. He said, have you been able to find paranormal evidence to back up the stories you have in your book?
Some of the stories, there have been investigators have gone in and collected evidence. Like with the banister being slashed, the owners, the people that own the house have reported hearing that sound in the general area of the banisters, and they connect it with that story. Other places, there's one place in the book that has a ghost parrot, like I had mentioned, and the enslaved lady who cooked for the family in the summer kitchen had a pet parrot. They let her have a pet parrot, a macaw parrot, which lived like 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she was known for this. And we're having that parrot all the time in the kitchen with her. Well, now people still hear the parrot squawking and talking in the kitchen.
That is fantastic.
And it's actually been caught on audio.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so there are a lot of these claims have been backed up either by the owner's own experience, and a lot of those come from newspaper articles and newspaper TV reports that the owners have done interviews for, and things like that. Yeah, and then like Cragfont is extremely. There's a lot of people who have kind of written about Cragfont as far as paranormal authors. But they've also done quite a few TV interviews and newspaper interviews, the 2 caretakers who took care of it for 30 years. And a lot of the stories are their own stories of what happened to them. They just retired a few years ago in the state, because it's a state site. So the state actually hired another director to come in. They don't do anything. They won't tell you about the hauntings now. Yeah. But the gentleman who was the caretaker, him and his wife, they finally retired because they were convinced that the spirits were trying to kill them.
Wow.
One day he heard, this story's in the book, he heard what sounded like he thought a bird got in, and that's what he heard fluttering upstairs and something hitting the window. So he went up there, and he couldn't find anything. And he was going back down the stairs, and all of a sudden a rope appeared out of nowhere around his neck and drug him back up the stairs.
Holy smokes.
And he finally, after it drug him up 4 or 5 stairs, he finally got it off of him, and there's nobody there. And he still has the piece of rope.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then one day,
nuts.
I think he was vacuuming the stairs or something one day, the carpet on the stairs, and he walked back down the stairs, and the stairs come down, and then they have a landing, and then they turn. On that landing, they had a grandfather clock. And as he's walking by the grandfather clock, the door swung open, and it fell over at the same time and hit him in the forehead and cut his forehead open. He had to go have stitches. Yeah.
Wow.
And
that
this
is
really
crazy.
happened, and he has his wife, who was the other caretaker, there to back him up.
Yeah.
Well,
now on a scar on his forehead. Back him up.
Yeah.
That place
Physical evidence.
That place is insane.
Now, if so, like you said, the book comes out at midnight. If folks are looking to get it, what is the best way that they can do that?
Right now, through Amazon, it will be on Kindle Unlimited for free if you have Kindle Unlimited. It's been up for pre-order on Kindle, and then it'll be in hardback and paperback.
Nice.
Okay, perfect.
The hardback version is actually a bigger font. So
Okay.
for anybody who's older or like me needs progressive lenses now, the hardback might be easy to read because it's a bigger font, because the book is slightly bigger than the paperback. So,
Okay.
and then here soon I'll have that website up and running, and people can order them directly from me if they want them signed.
Okay.
Already had
very
the
cool,
domain
right?
and stuff and building that, but they can just watch out on Facebook for that. On my page or on the Small Town, I have a Small Town Haunts and Legends Facebook page as well.
Well, are you thinking about doing a tour or anything? Maybe if any of the haunted locations that are featured in the book wanted to have you at them to do a book signing.
That would be
you be
awesome. That'd be fun. I'd love to do that. Yeah.
Like the historic Scott County
You're
Jail
welcome.
in Rugby.
Yeah.
Like the historic Scott County Jail in Rugby.
Yeah. I'd love to do that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we should have
Yeah.
you over here to do that.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that'd be great.
We'll just have to set that up.
Yeah.
So aside from being an author, you are also the owner of your own haunted location.
Yeah, the Night House in Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So the Night House, we bought it last April. So it's kind of crazy thinking we're going on a year of owning this place.
Wow,
Hey,
that
it's
does not
It don't
seem
seem
right.
yeah. So I still can't
Wow.
believe that we own this house. It's 5,600 square feet. It's a 1800s mansion that was built in 1815. And we call it the Night House because the Knight family lived in the house from 1860 until 1945.
Wow.
So for 85 years, the one family lived there.
That's so cool.
It has always been a residence until we bought it. And we now have it open for paranormal investigations. We're going to start at paranormal tours in March, and I will start the historical tours back up in March as well. On Fridays and Saturdays, I'll be doing historical tours during the day.
Okay.
And the paranormal tours, we have 3 different ones. I was doing a winter special from 7 till midnight, but I think that's been pretty popular. So I think we're going to keep that around for $150 for up to 5 people. And then a couple of extra people was $25 a piece. And then we have a half night, the 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. that is for teams or just groups of friends that want to come in for $350. And then for $500, you can rent the house out for 14 hours and spend the night in the house.
That's great.
So from 7 p.m. until 9 a.m. the next morning.
Oh,
That's
wonderful.
cool. Now, do y'all actually live there on site, or do you have another
No.
location? Okay.
No, we live outside of Nashville. I do stay there when we have teams. I have my own quarters in the back and what used to be the summer kitchen. And
Gotcha.
so I hang out back there, and teams can get a hold of me if they need anything while they're in the house.
Okay.
That's the new kitchen. So the owners that we got the house from built this addition that connects the house to the summer kitchen, because the summer kitchen would have been a separate building because they didn't want to heat the house up in the summertime, and so they would cook in the summer kitchen, and in the wintertime they cooked on the big giant hearth in the basement to help heat the house. And so the summer kitchen, in case it burned down or something, it was always a separate building.
Of course.
And the previous owners who we bought it from actually built that wing on to build a modern kitchen and a laundry room, and then it goes into the summer kitchen.
That's very cool. So what are some of the paranormal claims that you guys have experienced there?
So we started experiencing things from day one. There's lots of phantom noises that we capture on our cameras all the time. I have 8 cameras around the house that are set for motion or sound. And it's a task to keep up with them because the siren goes by, they go off. But when it goes off at 1:30 in the morning, it's usually not anything outside. So especially in the master bedroom on the floor, on the ground level there, because the house is 6 separate levels.
Oh, geez. Okay.
It stacks back and forth. So the only kind of full level is the ground level. Every other level in the house is a half level.
Okay.
So it goes from a cellar to the basement. And the basement's the bottom windows you see along the ground. And then it comes up to the ground floor, which has the modern kitchen and all that and bedrooms. And then you go up to the parlor, the fancy parlor, and that's actually where the front door comes in. The front porch comes in. And then you go up to a guest suite that the Rogers family, when they lived there, they turned into a guest suite. And then you go up another level until the attic is only half the house, but it runs the full length of the house. And you can stand up in it. It's the 8-foot tall ceilings and stuff. They probably used that for kids' room. I imagine the Knights did as well because they had 7 kids. And the first 2 were babies when they moved in the house, and they had the other 5 while they lived in the house. So,
wow.
And it was nowhere as big as it is today. The house has been changed a lot since then. But being a residence, people weren't thinking about the historical significance until the Rogers family moved in. They kind of understood, especially the mother, Frances Rogers. She understood the kind of the historical significance of the house.
Okay.
But they were just changing the house to their needs and all that. But it sits on 3 acres. It used to be
nice.
300. It originally was 300 acres, and it sits on 3 acres. So we're uncovering some of the original foundations for original structures. We think we found the original structure for where the carriage house used to sit.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, nice.
And so, when it warms up and stays warm, instead of our faux spring right now, we're gonna have Billy Wilkerson from the
Franklin,
Franklin,
historical.
Kentucky. Sorry, I'm brain dead from all
you're
I
right.
got so much information from Goblin Gun and all that. From the Simpson County Historical Society in Franklin, Kentucky. He's the director, but he does the ground penetrating radar.
Yep.
Yes.
So we have been told that there are tunnels that come from the house, and that is possibly on the Underground Railroad. So I'm doing research on that now to see if we can figure out if it was or not. There was another house in Hopkinsville that has been proven, but only one other. There would have been at least 3 or 4 to kind of move and slide people around.
Yeah.
So
that is fantastic.
That's
right.
going to be really cool. Plus, you've been uncovering a lot of different artifacts and stuff.
Yeah.
If people go follow your Facebook page there, the Knot House, you're always sharing history and talking about some of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of slacked off with the holidays and with the winter. I'm kind of a hermit in the winter, so we haven't been up there as much, unless I've got a team in there. And we did our first public ghost hunt a couple weekends ago. But we'll be kicking back up on a regular basis in March, and I'll be posting more videos and pictures. But yeah, we found china shards from the 1800s all the way to the 1940s.
Wow.
Broken pieces of china. Found original doorknobs that were in the house in the 1850s, 1860s. Let's see, there are 2 full books of letters, original handwritten letters, and a lot of it's business correspondence for J.B. Knight that I don't know how it's been passed down from owner to owner, but they've been passed down from owner to owner. And I think it started with, Frances Rogers. The Rogers family bought the house in 1948, and they lived there until 2014. And I think she started collating all these letters that were kind of left there from the Knight family. And
that's cool.
In 1945, everything was auctioned off that the Knight family owned because the immediate family kind of died out. And then the oldest grandson died right before he could take ownership of the house. So the extended family members didn't want anything to do with it, or they couldn't afford the house because it was so big. And so they auctioned everything off. So we only have pictures of one of the children, one of the Knight children, and that's because he was an attorney in Chicago until he died in the 1920s. And so I don't have any idea of what JB and Eliza Knight looked like, or many of the other kids. So I think some of those letters were left, and then I think the owner we bought the house from may have bought some from like eBay and from dealers and things where he found them, because I know there's been that's my friend Mel. She's absolutely in love with the house. She's been there several times.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah. But I've even had people send me things where there's been letters on eBay for sale that have JB Knight's name on them. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so I'm pulling up a couple of the stuff here. So as far as people being able to follow along with what you're doing, I know we pulled up the website a second ago. You've got the Facebook page. What is the best way if people are wanting to either take advantage of one of the history tours or do one of the private investigations or guided ghost hunts? What's the best way to find the information out and follow
on the website, theKnightHouseKY.com, and Knight is spelled Knight.
Okay.
And if you just want to follow the restoration stuff, follow the Facebook page. I put all that stuff up there, and I do periodic walkthroughs of the house for all the different changes that we've made. And we've been working on it here lately. We actually just last Sunday, it was warm enough that we planted 27 plants. So we're putting landscaping back in. We're starting to put the original former garden back in. When you're looking at that picture of the house, you just had up to the left, the house is like flat, but they had a formal garden with like this 6-foot-tall hedgerow all the way around it, and very formal on the inside with pea gravel paths and things. So we're going to put that back in. You can't really see around that side, but around the other side there is very flat and kind of plain. And but we're going to put the formal garden back in over there. Probably starting this spring. But all those plants you see in pots, they're all planted now. We have 2 stacks of brick on each side of the porch. We're going to brick up the concrete with red brick, so it matches the house. We just did 3/4 tongue and groove on the ceiling
Nice.
in the kitchen. So trying to make it kind of look the part, even though it's a modern
That's
kitchen.
cool.
Yeah. So all the columns and stuff, when it gets warm, they're all going to get scraped and painted to be bright white and match. We're also going to specialize in smaller weddings. So
great. Yeah.
normally a house like this would cost you thousands of dollars to rent, for a wedding. We want to do smaller ones that people can afford.
Yeah.
So if somebody just has 10 guests or 15 guests, they can, get the night house for under $1,000 for the day, to do their wedding and reception and that type of stuff. So we want to kind of start putting that out there, and we'll probably start booking that stuff whenever we get the columns painted and all that stuff. Just because it looks better in pictures and stuff, than the peeling paint. I find beauty in the peeling paint and all that, but
And that is accurate, Nancy. I did have Eric on my show, and we really dove in and talked real deep about the house. So if anyone is interested in seeing some of the captures that they've gotten and following a little bit more on that, you can see my full interview with Eric there on my Ghost Biker Garage show. So.
Yeah, and as far as the paranormal, some of the stuff, I only put up stuff that I can't debunk. Stuff that I can't one way or the other. So there's a whole page on the website of the paranormal stuff
Very
too, that
cool.
we capture, and I update it periodically. Also, there's I think a 12 or 15 minute walkthrough video that I just did not long ago of all the updates, but will never be done.
No.
Over 200-year-old house. It's
always something.
Yeah.
So okay, so aside from that, you're being an author and running a paranormal location. You are also working on a Goblin Con.
Yes, correct? I got hired as the event coordinator. So
Tell us a little bit about this.
My baby to put together. So Goblin Con UFO and Paranormal Expo is going to happen in October at the Bruce Convention Center in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And if y'all are familiar with the Kelly Hopkinsville Goblin incident back in the 1950s, 1955, we're going to be celebrating the 70th anniversary of that. And it is not just UFOs, but it's Paranormal Expo. So there will be speakers and workshops for ghost, cryptids, UFOs, kind of run the gamut. All of our vendors will kind of run the gamut as well as far as the paranormal. And we'll be putting the schedule out here soon and starting to announce our speakers.
Nice.
And you two are going to be speakers.
We will be. Yeah, we're very excited about that.
And possibly do a workshop or two.
Yeah.
But we wanted to not just have straight speakers where you just have somebody talking at the audience. I wanted to do some workshops that people can ask questions, like Ghost Hunting 101 or Investigating 101, things like that. Tickets will go on sale August 1st. We will have VIP packages that will kind of encompass the entire weekend from
nice.
Thursday night until Saturday night.
Okay.
Our VIP ticket holders will have something to do paranormal wise for all of those. But yeah, I'm the event coordinator. I'm the one that does all the videos, and I've built the website. So if anybody's interested in being a vendor, you can go onto the website, which is goblinconky.com. And there's a form you can fill out right below that video there and send it to us. And then we'll get back to you if you're approved as a vendor.
Okay. Well, can you just tell us briefly what this is about?
So the Kelly Hopkinsville Goblin kind of invasion happened in 1955, August 21st into August 22nd, 1955. The Sutton family who lived in Kelly, which Kelly is a little bitty town 10 minutes outside of Hopkinsville.
Okay.
And one of the lady's sons who owned the farm, we'll call her Grandma Sutton, who owned the farm, her son, who was 18, 19, he came back to visit with one of his friends. And it was a Sunday night. They're eating dinner. They're fixing to eat dinner. And him and his friend had been out chopping wood on the farm, and they came back in, and the friend claimed that he saw a flying saucer land on the property.
Wow.
Well, they thought he'd done been in the moonshine or something. And so his friend Elmer, the son, and the mom, the grandma, told him, "You're crazy. You ain't seen nothing. There's nothing out there." And it started to get dark. Well, they go to walk back in the house, and this little goblin alien creature reached down from the roof and grabbed one of them by the hair of the head.
Oh my gosh.
And that's when Elmer and Grandma figured out he's not been in the moonshine, that something's going on. And so they ended up being under siege by these little goblin creatures, and they call it the Green Men, but they weren't green. They were actually, the way that Miranda did the logo, they're actually a gunmetal gray color.
Okay.
And they were described as having like these suits on, like metal suits, because they were shooting out of the house through the windows, doors, everything at these things as they were trying to get in the house to attack them. And they said the bullets just kind of pinged off this armor they had on.
Wow.
But they were described as about 3 foot tall, weren't very big, kind of lanky looking. And those are actually taken from the sketches that was done by 3 different of the family members that saw them.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so Elmer's daughter, Geraldine, who was not born then, she did not even hear about the story until she was 8 years old, because her family didn't talk about it. And there were other people in the house too. Her aunt and uncle were kids at the time. They hid under the bed. So they were under siege for so many hours, and they fought them off. And the sun started coming up, and they were able to go get the sheriff of Hopkinsville. And the sheriff came out, investigated. He believed them that they were under siege by something, because these were poor country folk, and the fact they shot out their own windows, well, who's going to fix that? They're going to have to fix it, and they don't really have the money, for that. So why would they just do that?
Right.
And everybody kind of had the same story. He didn't think anybody was lying. Well, they got back, the sheriff left, and they tried to get some sleep before the sun came fully up. Well, they came under siege again until the sun started coming fully up, and the goblins retreated. And in that spot where that flying saucer supposedly landed, nothing would grow there for many, many years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
not
cool.
even grass. It was just a big round dirt patch. And the grandma ended up selling the farm 2 weeks later and moving to Hopkinsville into an apartment, because people would not leave them alone. They would walk right up in their house and just take things as souvenirs.
Oh,
and taking stuff off their property, pulling boards off the side of the house for a souvenir that may have had a bullet hole or something in it. And so she just, and they were afraid the goblins would come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so they ended up moving into the city where they felt more safe and protected.
Mm-hmm. So this is the anniversary celebration of that?
This is the 70th anniversary. Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason we're having it in October is because there's a bunch of stuff going on in August. But we're also having another event in August. So the weekend of August 22nd, 23rd, we'll be announcing this stuff here soon. But the 22nd, we're going to do something special with Geraldine and Barry Conrad. And Barry Conrad did a amazing docudrama film that has interviews with some of the original people in there that he did back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. So, but he's also known for the Entity case. Barry Conrad is, that they made the film into the San Pedro haunting. And if anybody remembers on Unsolved Mysteries or one of those, the picture of the photographer, he got hung on a nail by a spirit with his camera strap. That was that San Pedro haunting that Barry Conrad was. That was his investigation. Okay.
Very cool.
And so he's been an investigator a long time. So him and Geraldine are going to speak at the Bruce, and we're going to have a 2 different tickets. We'll have VIP tickets. They can do a meet and greet with both of them and have dinner if you buy a VIP ticket. And then you can do general admission to come and watch them two speak about the incident. And we'll show the film, Barry's film.
Nice.
And we'll kind of announce and kick off everything Goblin Con. And then on the 23rd, that Saturday, we're going to do a mini festival at Visit Hopkinsville, where all of our vendors who are paying to be at Goblin Con get to, they have the option to come for free and set up a booth that day at Visit Hopkinsville. Nice. And so you can come meet Geraldine. I'm pretty sure Dewey will be there. He's another speaker that we have. And so that'll be a fun thing to celebrate the actual 70th anniversary. And then in October, because they used to do the Kelly Little Green Men Days festival, and then in Kelly, and that drew thousands of people out. And that weekend they did that. And COVID stopped them from doing it, and they haven't picked it back up. So we actually Visit Hopkinsville, partnered with Geraldine, who's written the books, and she goes around speaking about her family story. And then they partnered with me to plan it all. So it's actually being put on by the Visitor Bureau for the city of Hopkinsville.
Which
I
is
love that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
When the towns get behind that sort of thing, I mean, it just adds so much legitimacy to these conventions and festivals and such. So it's a great support system that's putting this on.
Yeah. And, everything that we've been kind of watching behind the scenes, you kind of doing this, it's going to be a very professional con. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of great speakers. Eric, gave us the rundown of speakers before we started, and it's going to be a great lineup, a lot of great vendors. So please, if you're in the area of Hopkinsville, Kentucky, plan to join us in October. It's going to be a lot of fun. Here's your advance notice. Make plans. Even if you're traveling from afar, we'd love to have you. But they really are putting in a lot of work to make this a great event.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know, Hopkinsville is in western Kentucky, not far between Lamberton Lakes, about 20 minutes from Lamberton Lakes, and only about 45 minutes from Nashville.
Okay.
And it's an hour and a half from Bowling Green, I believe. So
Okay.
it's not like it's out in the middle of nowhere. And Hopkinsville is a town of about 40,000 people. So there's plenty of hotels, plenty of restaurants, and all that stuff. And the Bruce Convention Center is massive. It is a really nice place, and there's a Holiday Inn that's attached to it, where people can stay. And so, everything. Hopefully, we plan everything out, and there will even be an arcade room where people can go play arcade games for free.
Well, then there you go. I mean, that just sold it right there.
Yeah. So trying to pull out all the stops, and tickets will be cheap too. So affordable for everybody.
I think Miranda's pulling up a map.
Yeah,
here,
I'm pulling up a map here just
people can kind of get an idea of where we're going.
What in the world?
Yeah, it's about Oak Grove is right there, where they have the big casino.
Okay.
And then Fort Campbell, the 101st Airborne. Fort Campbell's not 15 minutes from there.
Okay, let's see. There's our map.
Yeah. And actually, Fort Campbell Boulevard runs all the way from Clarksville through Hopkinsville. So, but yeah, only about 45 minutes from Nashville, not far, about an hour from Paducah. And then you just have Illinois right there. St. Louis is only a few hours away. So, in Evansville, Indiana is about an hour and a half. So all these major
it's
towns.
Center. Yeah, it's center to everybody who would want to come. And so if you're watching this and you want to do something fun in October, please make plans to come and visit us at this very cool event.
Yeah, and if you're in this area looking to go, it's roughly about 3.5 hour drive. So so it's not far. Get a good little road trip in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we won't get into it too far, but if you enjoy hearing Eric's voice as well as hearing stories and learning more about some other amazing authors and investigators, ufologists, what have you, it runs the gamut. Eric also hosts a podcast, the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Or you kind of have stepped back a little bit on that, right? But you're still doing it.
It's kind of, I'm on hiatus right now. And originally I wasn't going to bring it back because I've done 170 episodes in almost 5 years, 200,000 downloads. I'm like, where do I go from here? It's getting harder to find guests and so I kind of put it on hiatus, especially for the holiday season, but I will bring it back. I'm just busy with the Goblin Con and the book and stuff. So probably March-ish, I'll start with guests again, but I'm going to come back instead of doing it every week, drop an episode, it'll be every other week.
Okay.
And people can listen to the past episodes
everywhere, anywhere you listen to music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to music or podcasts. I even upload the audio on YouTube because I have a pretty good following on YouTube that people, they put it on their computers at work and listen to it in the background, while they work. So if I don't put an episode up there, I hear about it really quickly. So.
And you heard it. He's got like over 200 episodes and such.
170 something.
170, yes. So a lot of catching up to do if you want to catch up and get ready for when he comes back in March.
So Eric, thank you so much. You got a lot of exciting things going on, and thank you for taking the time to join us tonight and talk about them all. And we're really excited to see you here in October.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And hopefully I'll see you before then. We'll do a book signing out there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's do
that. Yeah.
And I want to come back out there and investigate anyway. So
you should. Yeah. It's been pretty active. Miranda's on her podcast tonight. Is going to do a live over there. So
awesome.
It's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah. So folks, go and be first in line here at midnight to order Eric's book. We've put the link up on Amazon there, and learn you about some East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and West Tennessee small town haunts and legends, and you'll be glad you did. And then come and meet him here at the jail.
Yeah, we'll keep everybody posted on any of those dates, but all the links and everything are on the side over there. We're gonna go ahead and get off here. For everybody in the area here in Tennessee, please be careful. We are under tornado warnings right now. We are a seek shelter. We just got the emergency warning.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, they're telling us to seek shelter here. So everybody be safe. We do have some storms coming across. But again, Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And go to Ghost Biker Garage here at 9:00. She's going to be doing a live from the jail, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So,
we'll either be talking to ghosts or taking shelter from tornadoes.
Yeah.
Either way, it's the safest building in the county.
Safest building in the county.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Next week we have a really cool. We have a couple of cool guests. Diane and Kelly, the host of the
History Goes Bump.
Yeah, History Goes Bump podcast. We're really excited to have them both. So they will be with us next week. But until then, everybody stay safe and have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.